The 6th Gen Camaro comes with halogen reverse lights out back, and it's one very odd choice on Chevy's part, particularly because everything else on the car seems to be LED, or at least the lights that matter, and your headlights are HID if you have, in my case, an SS1LE. So one of the popular things that are for sale are these conversion harnesses. I got this from Gen 5 DIY. This basically plugs in line with your normal tail light harness and has a resistor that allows you to rock LED tail light bulbs, right? Reverse light bulbs. Unfortunately, this thing went bad after a while. I noticed one of the LEDs on one of the tail light bulbs was glowing when the car wasn't on, and after a few days it killed my battery. By the time I noticed, of course, it was too late to do anything. My battery had been dead. I had to charge my battery and everything. So when I took this out and replaced the bulbs with the factory ones, I then took a look at this thing and I realized this harness just has a resistor, and well, it was allowed to rust out, and upon doing so it broke. This end was supposed to be here, but it broke. This is a soldered connection. I don't know why people love soldering on things that are going to vibrate, because of course soldering makes things brittle and more likely to just break. This thing basically broke, and that's another flaw in this design, right? This just sits in the car and is allowed to flop around as you're driving. So yeah, over time you're gonna break those brittle solder joints. And what I'm gonna do today is I'm going to show you how I fix that with some very cheap parts off Amazon. All I've basically done is go online. I noticed this says on it, and it will probably be really hard to get on camera, but why don't we take a stab at it, shall we? It says 50 watt 3RJ. So I was able to look that up and figure out what resistors I needed, and I noticed that the ones that are for sale online have these very convenient tabs on them that you can use to bolt them down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little base that I will bolt this onto, and then I'll use double-sided tape right between that base and my Camaro. Now you're probably wondering, why don't I just put double-sided tape on this? That's because this resistor gets extremely hot in use, which is why it comes with this fiberglass sheath. And yeah, if you just put double-sided tape on this, I'm sure it would fail over time from the heat. But if I slide this inside this little heat protective sleeve, alright, slide it in there, has a bracket with screws going through this sleeve, and then that bracket is double-sided taped onto the Camaro. I think this should work out pretty good. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm obviously going to fix this up. These already come with some nice leads attached to them, so I don't really have to do much. I'm just going to go ahead and break the rest of this mess off. I'm going to cut it with a wire stripper. Yep, and then I'll use my crimping tool to crimp these wires onto those, and of course for that I will use one of these crimp connectors. So here we have my 2017 Camaro SS1LE. Now, I love my 1LE quite a bit. There's only really one mistake that Chevy made on this car, besides skip shift that is, and that's this.
Why, oh why, did they go with that old school halogen bulb that just ages the appearance of the car in so many ways? And that the camera, just looking at the screen, the camera is flattering the heck out of that light. It is making it look so much nicer than it looks in person, because in person it is so yellow and just ugly. So we're gonna mend that right now using the harness that you saw me fix earlier in this video. All right, that's this guy. We're gonna install this, and I'm gonna show you how to go about that. So here's what you're gonna need in order to complete this job. The first thing you're gonna need is the harness, obviously. You're also gonna need some LED bulbs. These are 7440 bulbs, which is what the Camaro uses. You're gonna need a stubby flathead screwdriver. You can have a regular size one as well. That was just kind of easy to manipulate here. And you're gonna need a socket wrench with a size 8mm socket on it. That's going to allow you to undo the bolts to pull the tail light out, because you've got to pull one of the tail lights partially out in order to get the harness in there. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to remove this black cover behind the tail lights. And the way to do that is there's 3 clips here, and basically each one has like a little groove where you can put the head of the flathead screwdriver. So you basically just got to hunt for that groove and put your screwdriver through there and pop it out. Once you do this, you kind of get the head up, then they'll release. So to show you this in better detail, I know clips can be really aggravating. So if you take a look at one of these clips, basically it's a 2-part thing. Right, so when this upper part is pushed down, it spreads the lower component wide, so it won't allow it to back out. So in order to remove this, you want to stick a screwdriver in between the 2 components and pop out this upper part, and then the lower part will pop out just fine. You want to go ahead and toss these clips in the trunk so you don't lose them. They can require a little bit of force. You kind of want to put your finger over it while you push the flathead from below, so you kind of sandwich the clip between your finger and the flathead. Once you have these up, you don't actually have to pull them all the way out. You can pull this. Make sure you kind of pull back this weather strip. It'll all come out, and then you can remove the clips more easily. Alright, with that done, now we have to access the various bolts holding in the tail lights. One of the tools you would normally need is a clip puller, specifically to get out this clip that's here. I don't have to do that because I've done this in the past, so I never actually put that clip back. Those are in there pretty hard. I ended up breaking it. I wouldn't recommend you try a flathead with that. That's something you should probably have an actual clip puller. But this is easy enough to take out. Once you get rid of that, you kind of like move this weather strip, because this is supposed to tuck under it. Pull this out of the way, and then you can get at these nuts here and just pull this out. So looks like I have 2 here. Then I'll have another couple deep inside of here, so that I can get the outer side of the tail light out. But I'll start with these 2. And they're not on super tight, by the way, nor should you tighten them back on super tight. Just give them a couple turns with the wrench and that's it. They're ready to rock. My tail lights are quite dirty up top. Not surprising, this area gets super dirty. I actually washed the car recently and wiped this all down, but I think next time I wash my car, I'm actually going to remove those covers so I can get at this filth in this region over here. And all this, pretty nasty. Alright, I can't get you a good enough shot of me accessing those other screws. Just know that they're back here this way, basically along the length of the tail light, and you can actually see where they're gonna be by looking up top mostly. So there's one here. All right. Got that one out. There should be another one somewhere, or not. I think maybe it's just a clip of some sort. Yeah, it seems like some kind of clip. Let's see if I can get this taillight to come out. Alright, so I realized that my passenger side taillight was borderline impossible to pull out without doing some kind of damage. So this driver side taillight was actually pretty easy. Just gave it a gentle tug and it came forward. So now that I have it out, all I've got to do is remove this harness. And you want to kind of lean your taillight up against the weather stripping here. It will scratch your bumper if you're not careful. So you'll see that there's this clip here, and what you do with this is if the red tab is pushed all the way in, you pull it back like that. Then there's a little black tab here. You squeeze that with your finger and then tug, and this comes apart pretty easily once you do that. So this is what you want to plug your harness into. So you'll take your harness. This is the male end. You pop your red clip back in. So that's that. Then this goes to the other end, which is here. Alright. Then all you have to do is change out your LED bulbs. So let's go ahead and do that. So the bulb I'm changing is right here. And the way to change it is to turn this part counterclockwise. I've actually broken a tab off mine already. But actually, you can do this with the tail light back in. So I'm actually going to focus on that and try to tuck this harness up so that it's not interfering with my tail light going back in. Alright, make sure I don't crush the harness in the process of this. I think that's good there. Alright, so this is back in. So you'll remember that I have my resistor here and I put double-sided tape on this guy. That's so that I can glue it down in there and it's not moving around, because as it moves around, that will cause the solder joints on here to break. I'm actually going to go ahead and put in some of these screws, these nuts, so that this thing does not try to come apart while I'm forcing on that bulb. And like I said, this is a real light torque you're going to apply here, like really light. You don't want to tighten it too much. Like the second they're snug, I stop. So just turn, that's snug, stop. Alright, so let's see if I'm able to get this dumb bulb. Alright, so I kind of grabbed the top of the thing with this and turned it a bit, and now I should be able to finish doing the rest of it with my hand. Alright, so that's that. That was unnecessarily hard. Gee, thanks GM. Let's pull that out. Then, get our brand new bulbs here. Go ahead and pop one in. Hopefully this is not too long for the space I have. We'll find out. We'll do the same exact thing on the passenger side. Just pop the bulb in to the socket. Now we'll test this by double clicking the trunk button, and they're both lighting up super bright. So that's working the way I want it to. Let's pop these back in. So you'll kind of slide it in and turn this thing counterclockwise. And it is as hard to reinstall as it was to undo. Again, GM, what the hell are you guys doing? Get your act together. I think the weirdest part is there's no consistency. It was almost impossible to take out my passenger side tail light, but it was super easy to take out the bulb in this one. Whereas the other one came out easily, like the housing, but then the bulb didn't want to come out. Alright, so just take the bulb, pop it back in its slot. Alright, kind of let it seat all the way down, then turn it clockwise to lock it in place. And again, super difficult for no reason to lock into place. So, one finger on the bottom, pliers on top, and it's locked into place. Really, really stupid. But okay. With that being done, I can button everything back up, putting all the nuts back where they were, and putting the covers on, and I should have nice reverse taillights. So we'll test that in a second. The only major thing left to be done is to glue this resistor down. I'm thinking I'll probably glue it to this wall. I could tuck it up here, but then it's going to be in the flow path of water that goes down there when it rains, and just in general might interfere with this. So I'd rather try and tuck it this way if I can. Pretty sure when this closes, this is 30-pound 3M double-sided tape, so I'm hoping we'll do the job sufficiently well. As I said earlier, reinstalling these clips is pretty easy. Just push this down. I kind of want it that way so that the screwdriver portion goes through there. Pop it down. Then you come in with the little top clip portion. Just pop it down in there, and that's that. If you don't have them separated, you can just do it in one motion like this. It's done. Now that I have everything all buttoned up and I tested the lights earlier, let's go ahead and take a look at what that actually looks like inside the housing. Very nice. And again, the camera is not doing this justice. It looks so much better in person. I'm really happy to have a proper looking reverse light back on this car.